Well, we've got this dream that we would be a church that reaches our community, you know, with 3,926, and we're not there. It's easy to have a mission statement or vision statement, but then you've got to ask yourself, how are you going to do it? It's actually going to take a team of people, a group of people, capturing that vision and capturing the heart behind it. And so I thought it was important that we redefine the values, because we're a growing church and there's been new people who come along and people who haven't been part of the original story. And I think we'd lost a bit of our heart and the why and how we do things. So it's important to re-establish that and to make it clear so that we could go into this next decade energetic and dancing to the same tune. I think it started really when we did our mini conference, when Dale and Edie came, and then they had a workshop after that. He talked about the values, and so I was pretty impacted by that. And we were in the car on the way home, chatting away to a carload of people, and I just thought I'd jump in there and change it, like get all my stuff, put it together, revamp it. And in the discussion in the car, I realised it would be no good if it was just me.
So when we started thinking about coming up with the values, we really didn't want it to be 2 or 3 people. We wanted it to involve the entire church, because the church is our family and we wanted the family to have a say. We wanted to give an opportunity for everyone, like the youngest of kids to the oldest, to have a say in what their values could look like. And so we started with the Connect cards.
And so for 4 weeks we asked people to write down 3 things which they valued about the Rock. We came out with a lot of values then, and then that started us off on the next step of the journey.
My involvement with redefining the values was, I guess we had these meetings where we just spat out anything that came into our mind for what could possibly be a value of the church, and there was a lot of them.
Yeah, so right at the start we just started throwing everything out, every idea that we had. Well, what was it that we enjoyed, what did we find valuable? Some of it was deep, some of it was silly.
After the 4 weeks, once we collected everyone's thoughts, we got Marika, who had the smallest handwriting in the group, and we would be reading off the cards, and she was writing them on lists.
We had these massive pieces of butcher's paper and just filled it up with ideas.
We made a big list of all of them and doubled them up when there were double ups, and then slowly broke them down into smaller groups, so like a few words that were kind of similar we put into one word.
Around this point, when we were calling them out, we started to see some patterns emerge, and there were really 5 key themes.
We could start to see some threads and some links, and out of that started to look at, well, what underpins some of those things that we've found, we've highlighted that are important to us. What are some of those underpinning expressions that could actually give some definition to that value that we were looking at?
I think the biggest challenge in redefining the values was picking the most important, because honestly we could have 500 values, but the hardest thing was going, what are the most important?
So we really ended up with these 5 key themes, and then we thought, well, you can't plaster everything up, so you had to go through the selection process. So that was interesting, because everything's good, and like, how do you narrow it down? And so we went through a whole refining process, and we invited some other teams and people in.
So when I started coming along to the staff meeting, it was just the refining process. So there was a lot of rearranging just the sentences to make sure it was the right way. It was important to make sure they were right and that they actually portrayed the vision and that it actually made sense.
Definitely important to define what words meant, like community or belonging or things like that, just because so many people have different views of what community is. And I guess just defining that this is what community here looks like.
I think it was really important to go slow on the values just so that we weren't doing things because they sounded good. And I think it's easy to have catchy phrases that sound good but aren't us.
I think the team and those who are invited in really it was an invitation to be honest and say, no, I don't like that. And then just say, you know, really to give people the privilege, I guess, of an honest opinion, but then to delve into it, tell us why so that we can understand.
Yeah, it was really hard because, I mean, it's a group of you, so it's not just what one person thinks, it's about what everyone thinks, and everyone has different ideas and everyone likes different words and different ways of shuffling the words, and it was kind of hard, but it was fun.
It was a real lesson for me to just die to myself, I suppose. Often there's things that I really wanted to have in, or I wanted it to look like, I wanted to say, but other people didn't agree. And that's the whole thing of family, is that we're not always going to all agree, but we can have a conversation about it.
We really had so much fun discussing, debating, arguing at times. And there was just some really pivotal moments when even the quieter ones in the group stood out and just said these defining statements.
We started to brainstorm about possibilities of how best we could communicate these values. And for me, the best part is to sit with a group of people who all have totally different ideas, and we'd thrash it around, and then we could sort of reason together and come to a decision about, no, maybe that wouldn't work.
The most challenging is probably saying what you don't like about some of them. So I think criticising them when everyone else loves them is a good thing, because it got everyone passionate for all of the different parts of the values.
Those conversations really took us to a deeper level, but it was a real wrestle, and just seeing the team and those invited into the process, learning to think why and why not. You know, why do I like this? Why don't I? It was really powerful.
We were brought in probably towards the end, and it was absolutely awesome because of the wisdom. It was great to understand and know how many people had been involved, the time, the sacrifice that everyone's done, and the flexibility of all involved, including our senior pastors.
My hope for the church and for us as a community of believers is that we can use these values to find the things that make us strong, make us who we are, and that will actually encourage us as a group to have a full missional life ourselves and as a community.
I'm excited because I just think they give us something to work towards. They give us things to even, like, I can pull myself up on, like, am I being generous? Am I being a giver or a taker?
My biggest hope would be that even if people don't like parts of it, they'll get on board with it. I know there's a few sections of it that word-wise, not the greatest fan, but at the end of the day, I get the heart behind them and the passion for it. So I think that's the most important thing for everyone in our church.
They're for everybody. They're for the pastors, all the way to the elders, to anybody on staff, to anybody that comes to church, as well as those that attend Kids Rock and Spark.
Well, it's not just for the adults, it's for the kids too. And if the kids can do it, then the adults can do it too.
And it definitely isn't a surface thing. I just think everyone who hears the values or feels like, oh, what's this about? If they would take the time just to listen to somebody and ask a few questions, you would get to see that this isn't just some words on a paper, but this is an expression that comes out of the heart of many people.
Really hoping that as a church family, that they would be adopted into not only the way that we do church, but just the way we do life. For me, I don't see it as oh, we're not good enough, we're not there yet. I see it as, wow, we're actually on our way, and these values are giving us a clearer direction to get there.
So after 8 long months, here we sit, ready to launch it, back to the church. I feel like we're giving it back to them, what they started. It's really cool as we move into this new building and as we launch into this new decade, that we get to have some tools how to move forward and how to give heart to what we really desire, and that is to see our community know Jesus.